Good evening and welcome each and everyone at Carnival of Hope. It is a vibrant celebration of conscious and mindful parenting. And as part of this celebration, as the host, I'm excited to host today's Deep Parenting League. It's a special series which focuses on understanding everyday parenting challenges and transforming it for growth moments. And today, for our opening session, we have with us Ms. Richa Chaturvedi. She is a parenting coach, a career coach, NLP coach. She's a counseling psychologist and even author of the book Art of Behavioral Management in Children. Richa Chaturvedi is on a mission to help parents raise emotionally secure and confident children by her expertise in conscious parenting. Richa even is a founder of Parenting with Presence Club, where she helps lots of parents to understand their child's behavioral patterns, their tantrums, and help them decode so that they live a more fulfilling life. So, over to you, Richa.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Thank you for this wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. And I will say I am honored and I'm glad to be a part of this community and to be associated with Manish, sir. And honored to be taking this session today as a part of this community. Because, deep parenting community is a safe space for colleagues, for coaches from across India, where they come together, they share their experiences, they ask for feedback, they share their approach, they take suggestions, and they hold a space for each other. So very blessed to be a part of this community now.
I would request each and everyone to mute themselves and a humble request that all the questions would be answered towards the end of the session. So be patient. All your questions definitely will be answered. And thank you, Richa. I'm sure we'll all have a wonderful learning session today.
Thank you, Gloria. Now, coming back to the session, before we even begin, I want to set the context of this session. And for that, I will be asking each one of you two questions, right? And I want everyone in the audience to answer those questions very honestly in the chat box, please. So, my first question is, my first question is, has it ever happened that you that you have ended your day with guilt because what you did entire day was just micromanage your child, say no, give instructions, manage meltdowns, and you wondered that there was nothing useful that happened throughout the day, there was no connect that actually happened. Has it ever happened to you? If the answer is yes, please give me a yes in the chat box quickly. Come on, people. Give me a yes in the chat box. Awesome. I can see responses coming in, and I'm already loving the energy of this room. Amazing. My second question is, what if I tell you that the behavior that frustrates you the most is actually your child's way of communication? It's a message. And after this session, you will be actually able to decode that behavior and understand the message behind that behavior. Imagine your homes
Thank you,
moving
Richa.
from
All have a wonderful
imagine your homes moving from chaos to calm. How many of you would want to have that today? Come on, give me a yes in the chat box quickly. Amazing, amazing. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. So, once again, welcome to the session on behavioral management in children. And in today's session, we are going to do exactly just that. This session will focus your understanding on not fixing your child, but actually understanding them. So we'll shift our mindset from chaos to connection and from reaction to respond. Because remember, every behavior of your child, like I said, is a communication. It is a message for you. The question for us as parents and as caregivers is, are we listening? Are we listening to that message? But before I start, I want to take a quick moment to thank you all. You know, on a Monday evening like this, when we all are juggling with a lot of responsibilities, household chores, and everything else, you actually take out time and you chose to be here in this session, which talks very highly about your intention to parent with a purpose. And for that, you have all my respect. So, here is what I promise you today. In this 60 minutes that you will spend with me, I will make sure that these 60 minutes are worth your time. I will make sure that you walk away with a load of bulb on and aha moments during the session, and every minute that you spend here is worth your time. And here is what we will explore during the session. We'll understand what behavior is. Like I told you, every behavior is a communication, it is a message from your child. So we will understand what that message is. We'll try to decode that behavior. Because please understand that when we change the way we look at the behavior of our children, the behavior itself starts to change. Then I'll walk you through some psychological theories around behavior, which will be very helpful for you to understand why your child is behaving in a way they are behaving. Then we'll understand the ABCs of behavior. These are like the foundation of the behavior, like the pillars of the behavior. And then I will give you some tools and tips on how you can manage the behavior of your children. And these tools and tips are very easy to understand. These are something that you can actually use in your day to day life, something that I have used. They are tried and tested, and I'm sure they will definitely help. Now, but before we do that, let's establish some ground rule very quickly. I want you all to get cozy at your computer with a pen and a paper. Of course, please don't get so cozy that you doze off to sleep. A pen and a paper, because this will be a session where you'll have a lot of balcon and aha moments, and I want you to write down those, because at the end of the end of the session, it's not possible to retain everything that we have learned or understood during the session. Participation is the key, of course. The more you will participate, the more you'll be able to take back those learnings at your place and implement them. So let's make this session as lively as possible. Keep an open mind. We are diving into a very important topic of behavioral management, and this is the topic. If any time you have this thought, or you've had that thought that whatever I do, my child will never listen, my child will never change, I've tried everything, I want you to park those thoughts outside this session today, because in this session, a lot of traditional parenting myths will get busted. And if you need a break, a stretch, this is a 60-minute session. There will be no breaks. And, as it is, parenting has stretched a lot of our patience. So you might as well stretch your legs and your back while you are sitting on the same chair for the next 60 minutes. Now, before we dive into the topic, I want to take a quick moment and introduce myself. I hope that's okay with you. If I have your permission to introduce myself, please type P in the chat box. Come on, quickly, people. Let me know if I have your permission to take just 1 minute and introduce myself quickly. Amazing. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. So here it is. I am Richa Chaturvedi. I'm a licensed counseling psychologist and a conscious parenting coach. Other than my master's in psychology, I have degrees, 10 plus degrees from various national, internationally certified in national institutes, and in child psychology, managing child behavior, understanding children, and in conscious parenting. And during my journey, I've had the privilege to be coached or to be mentored by some of the top coaches in India and abroad, which really helped change my focus and shift my perspective from the traditional parenting methods to conscious parenting methods. And the intent of this session today is to make you understand or pass on some of those wisdom to you people, right? Now, let's deep dive into the topic. Now, before we understand what behavior is, we will quickly understand why we are trying to understand behavior at the first place, why we are talking about it. Why is there a need for us to understand our children's behavior? Because the clearer the why, the better the how. The more clarity you have on why you are trying to understand behavior, the how or the implementation part of it, that's the strategies that you learn to modify behavior, the implementation of part of it will become very easy. And for this, I want you to stop everything that you are doing right now. I want to have everyone's attention, please. And I want you to take a deep breath. Take a deep breath, close your eyes, and imagine the scenario that I am now discussing with you. Come on, everyone, close your eyes, take a deep breath. Imagine you are in the middle of a very hectic day. You are juggling hundreds of responsibilities, and suddenly your child throws a tantrum, something that you least expected. Tell me, what is that first thing that's coming up for you in your mind? Very honestly, think about it. What is it that's coming for you? It could be anything. It could be anger, it could be aggression, it could be embarrassment, or maybe you're thinking to yourself, why me? Why is my child behaving like this right now? I mean, in spite of the fact that I do everything, why is it happening with me? It could be anything. Imagine what is it that's coming up for you when in the middle of a very busy day, when you're juggling hundreds of tasks, your child, throws up a tantrum. I'll give you a minute to consider that and to think about that. Please think what comes to your mind. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Okay. Now I want everyone to open your eyes and give me in the chat box what is that first thing that came up for you. Tell me what came up for you in the chat box. Come on, quickly, people. Yes, come on. Okay, I see responses coming up. Now I will tell you a very powerful quote that has actually changed my way I see children, or I see children's behavior. This quote is from Dr. Pam Leo, and it says that behind every behavior is a need. Now, I want you to let that sink in. Behind every behavior is a need. And here's a little secret. Imagine your child's behavior. Instead of something that needs to be punished, imagine it as a message, a form of communication. Imagine how your homes would look like when, every time your child acted out, instead of asking yourself, why me? Why is he behaving like that? You ask yourself, what is it that my child needs in this moment? Imagine how your homes would look like in that way. Now, here's a little secret. Do you want me to share a secret with you? Come on, type secret in the chat box if you want me to share a secret with you. Quickly, everyone, type secret in the chat box. Awesome. So the secret is that our children are not having they are not giving us a hard time. They are in fact having a hard time. And I will repeat it again because it is very important to understand. Our children are not giving us a hard time. They are in fact having a hard time themselves. And this is very important for us to understand, dear parents, that every time we see a behavior of a child, it is not something that they are doing to give you a hard time, but it is their way of communication in a language that they know best. That because they are not developed enough, they don't have the skills to express themselves in words like we adults can do. Now, I want you to also understand that misbehavior is not about defiance or disrespect. Most of the time, it is an unmet need. And I will explain this to you by an example, okay? Imagine there's a little boy called Arav, and Arav is 6 years old, right? Now, Arav keeps hitting his younger sister. Now, these parents, Arav's parents, they've tried everything. They have tried punishments, they have tried timeouts, they tried taking away the privileges, they have tried almost everything, hitting and yelling as well. But in this case, nothing seems to work. It's only when they take a step back and try to understand what Arav is actually trying to communicate through these behaviors, they come to know that Arav is feeling left out. Because now the entire attention goes to the younger sister. So Arav is feeling left out, and Arav's need is the need for attention. Now the hitting stops when Arav's need for attention is met. So, like I told you, misbehavior is not about defiance or disrespect. It's about an unmet need of a child. So, as we move forward in today's session, I invite you to shift your focus, shift your lens, from asking, how do I stop this behavior? Why is my child behaving like this? To asking yourself, what is it that my child needs right now? What is it that I can provide my child to help them calm? you know and when we do this, dear parents, it's very important for us to understand that we are not only managing the behavior in that moment, we are also building emotional intelligence for our children, and we are building trust, and we are building, and most importantly, we are building a lifelong connection with them, right? And in my entire journey as a coach, I have not seen a single parent who does not want to have a very strong connection with their child, a bond that lasts long, a bond that lasts for a lifetime. So this is your chance to have that bond, to build that bond. If you are ready, type ready in the chat box. Come on with all that energy. Be with me. If you are ready, type ready in the chat box. And then now we'll move on to understanding what is behavior. Now that we've understood why we are talking about behavior, now we'll understand what behavior is. Now I want you to imagine one thing that comes to your mind when I say behavior or misbehavior of your child. Tell me, what is that one thing that comes to your mind when I say misbehavior of your child? And it could be anything. It could be aggression, it could be hitting, crying, yelling, throwing tantrums, could defiance, could be anything. Just imagine what is that one thing that comes up to you, and type it in the chat box quickly. Quickly type it in the chat box. And now let's understand it with an example. Suppose you are in a supermarket with your child, and suddenly your child throws a tantrum. Now it is very easy for us, for as caregivers and parents, to think that your child is acting out and giving you a hard time. Most of us, we say, iska fir chalu ho gaya, iska hamesha ka hai, yahan aake to ye hona hi tha. But when we look closer and we try to understand what's going on under this behavior, we might find that the child is either tired after a very long day, or hungry, or they are overstimulated because of all those noise and all those lights in the supermarket. Like I said, every behavior is a communication. So now I want you to imagine behavior as an iceberg. We all know what an iceberg is. What you see outside water, that's the tip of the iceberg, is what you see your child doing. However, underneath, there's a lot that's happening. Because when you see an iceberg, you see that underwater there's a huge lump of ice. So underneath, there's a lot that's happening. There's emotional turmoil, right? There's need for connection. There's need for power. That's fear, sleep, power struggle, sadness, and whatnot. So whatever you see superficially is what your child does in that moment. But underneath, there's a lot that's happening. And research shows that children's brain, it's not developed, especially those parts that handle impulse control, or those the parts that manage big feelings. So every behavior that you see is something that they do to communicate those feelings and those what the emotional turmoil that's going inside them to you. And the whole story actually lies underneath the behavior. Now, in this session, as you go ahead with me, I want you to picture an iceberg every time you see a very difficult behavior of your child, whenever you see your child misbehaving. Okay, I want you to imagine that iceberg in your mind, and, ask yourself that what I see is the surface, but what is it that's going beneath the surface? What is it that my child is truly trying to communicate right now with me? Are you ready to make that change? Yes? Everyone, are you ready to make that shift? Come on, type shift in the chat box if you're ready. Quickly, everyone. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, now we know what behavior is and we know why we are understanding behavior. Now we will understand the key theories of behavior. And don't worry, I will not make this session a psychology class, but these theories are very important to shift your mindset from control to connection. Because once you know these theories, you will shift your focus from asking yourself, why is your child behaving like that, to asking yourself what is it that you can do to facilitate the behavior of your child, or to help your child during that behavior. The first theory is classical conditioning, and this theory was given by Ivan Pavlov. Now, this theory suggests that learning is through association. So, our brain, it starts linking one event with another when those events happen together, and they happen one after the other together. Okay. So, what Pavlov, sorry, does was, he used to give food to his dog, and he used to ring a bell every time he used to offer food. Now, eventually, when he rang a bell, he noticed that the dog started drooling, even without any sight of food. Why? Why did that happen? Because the dog associated the ringing of bell with food. Now, let's understand this with an example. Suppose you tell your child that it's bedtime, and your child starts throwing a tantrum. Now they are not making your life difficult, and they are not giving you a hard time, but there might be a possibility that your child has associated bedtime with separation from you. So in their mind now, they know that bedtime is equal to disconnection, right? And what can we do as parents in this case? For us, what we can do is, to facilitate this, we need to provide more positive connection. And how we do that? For example, if my child refuses to brush their teeth in the morning, I start brushing my teeth with them. Okay. Or I play a song, or I give them choices. The entire idea is to make that exercise fun, something that they look forward to, something that they want to do, and not something that they don't want to do, something that they hate doing, or something that they want to escape from. Moving on, the second theory of behavior is the theory of operant conditioning, which was given by B.F. Skinner. Now, this theory suggests that every behavior that has a positive consequence, or a positive or a reward attached to it, those behaviors get repeated, and the behaviors that are either ignored or have negative result are those behaviors will not repeat in the future, or does not get repeated. Now, Skinner said that every behavior that is followed by a praise, or followed by a treat, or followed by something positive, is likely to be repeated in the future. Now, let's understand this with an example. Okay. Suppose your child starts whining out of nowhere, they starts whining, and you, as a parent, give a very dramatic reaction to it. You say, always you do like this, why are you doing like this, and things like that. Tell me what will happen. Tell me what will happen. Yes, the whining will continue. In fact, it might even escalate, right? And if, on the other hand, if you praise your child asking calmly, the whining will reduce, and you are not only managing the behavior in that moment, you are also reinforcing the behavior that you want them to follow, or you want them to continue, right? So, what we as parents can do, most important thing for us as parents, is to catch your child doing good. And trust me, it's very difficult. It comes by practice, because as human beings, we are wired to focus on the negative. We are wired to point out mistakes. We are wired to pinpoint all the wrong that has happened. But this theory says that you catch your child doing good, and then you make sure that they know about it, by appreciating them. So they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel appreciated. And how you can do that? Appreciation could be for very small things. It does not have to be for a very big achievement. For example, you can tell your child that you love them because, and you're very proud of them because they've put away their shoes or their toys without you even asking them. And that is what is called taking responsibility. Now, here you are doing two things. First, you are teaching them the meaning of responsibility. And second, you are reinforcing the behavior that you want to see in the future. Right? Does it make sense? If it makes sense, give me a MS in the chat box. Come on, quickly. I want everyone to be with me right now. Amazing. Now, the third theory is the theory of social learning, which was given by Albert Bandura. Now, what does this theory says? That children learn by seeing rather than doing what they are asked to do. They see things and then they learn. So this theory says that a child uh, notices their surrounding, their experience, whatever is happening in their surrounding, especially what is done by the adults in the surrounding and the ones that they are attached to. And if they see that behavior repeating, they are most likely to copy that behavior. Now again, let's understand this with an example. Now, as a parent, for example, if I yell when I'm frustrated or when I'm angry, there are 100% chances that my child will resort to yelling when they are frustrated. But when I, take responsibility, I apologize, I say sorry, there are chances that my child will also take responsibility and apologize for their mistake. Now, what it means for us as parents is that we do the behavior we want our child to continue in the future. For example, if you want your child to be calm, you show them what is calm, right? If you want your child to be respectful, you show them what being respectful looks like. Even when you are in a conflict situation, even when you are in a chaotic situation, you talk respectfully and show them what respect looks like. Now these are very simple theories, but they are very important to understand how the child learns. Because when you know how the child learns, you are in a position of power, because now you are in a position to lead your child with presence and not with pressure. ये तो करना ही पड़ेगा. But now, because now you know the science behind it, you know how your child learn, so you are in a position to lead them with presence, right? And isn't it that all we want? We want our children to lead with presence and not with pressure. It's only when we don't know what to do, we do these things, right? Are you with me on this? Come on, give me a P in the chat box if everyone here is willing to lead their child with presence and not with pressure anymore. Give me a P quickly in the chat box. Awesome. I am just loving the energy in this room. Okay, now that we know the theories of the behavior, we know what is behavior, let's understand the ABCs of behavior. Now, these ABCs are the foundation or the core of the behavior. They are the fundamentals of the behavior, where A means antecedent, B means behavior, and C means consequences. And don't worry, we'll decode this together using an example, okay? Suppose, for example, let's take an example. Okay, suppose there's a boy who's again a 6-year-old boy who's playing, and the mother walks in and says that playtime is over. Now you join me for dinner, right? So whatever happens before the behavior is the antecedent. Here, the mother goes to the child, tells the child that the playtime is over and that the child needs to now join the mother for dinner is the antecedent, something that happens right before the behavior. The behavior is how the child reacts. Okay. In this case, say for example, the child does not want the playtime to end and they still want to continue playing. So what will they do? There will be a tantrum, of course. It will be followed by a tantrum. It could be a possibility that the child starts throwing the toys, or they start crying, they start yelling. Could be anything. Now, behavior is the action that your child takes after the antecedent. And you know what? This is the first part that we notice as a parent. We notice the behavior. The next part is the consequence. Consequences, what happens right after the behavior. Now, in this example, the mother tells the child to come and join for dinner. The child starts throwing tantrum. So there are two cases that will happen. Either the mother is very tired. So the mother will say, you know what, you continue playing for 10 more minutes. That's completely okay. Or the mother is overwhelmed herself with a lot of chores that she's been doing. So she resorts to yelling and she starts shouting on the child. Now, please understand that a consequence is very important. It's very important. And why? I'll tell you. I'll tell you about a magic, okay? Are you ready to understand some magic here? Give me magic in the chat box. Come on quickly if you're ready to understand what the magic is here. Okay, come on. Right. So, and we'll understand this again with an example. Uh, now, when we start looking at the ABCs of our children, we start to notice pattern that we have not noticed before. Let's understand with an example again. In this case, suppose there's a child called Rohit and he's watching TV. Now the mother walks up to Rohit and says that TV time is over, now go to bed. Rohit, of course, because Rohit wants to watch more TV, so he starts yelling, I give me more time, give me more time, I want to watch TV. Now, this is the behavior. Now, as a consequence, the mother says, okay, 10 more minutes for TV. Now, Rohit knows the magic here is that the consequence is the most important part, because the consequence will teach the child what to expect in the future. Now, here, Rohit knows that his crying means 10 more minutes of TV time. So, this behavior is most likely to occur in the future. In the future, whenever Rohit wants anything, he'll probably resort to crying. However, if the consequence is consistent bedtime routine, there is all likelihood that Rohit will understand that his crying will not work and that he has to adjust to the routine. Now, let me tell you a very fascinating part here. Now that we know the ABCs of the behavior, there's something called the function of the behavior. Function is why the behavior has happened in the first place. We know what the behavior is. We know what happens before the behavior. Now the function is why the behavior has happened in the first place. And almost all the behaviors, even the most difficult ones, has these functions, where the child is either trying to gain attention, they are either trying to access something that they desire, it's their way to escape or avoid the situation, or they are trying to seek sensory inputs. These are the only functions of behavior that your child is, that leads to the behavior. Okay, so in Rohit's example, he's trying to get what he desires, which is more screen time, right? Making sense, everyone? Are we understanding what behavior is? Is it helping you decode behavior? If the answer is yes, give me a yes in the chat box. Come on, quickly. I want everyone to be with me here. We are discussing a very important topic. So now we know the ABCs of behavior, we know the function of a behavior, why the behavior happens in the first place. Now let's understand some very common behavioral challenges. Now these are the challenges that I am sure most of the all the parents have faced. They are very normal part of a child growing up, and these are the challenges that mostly every time or sometimes leave a child, leave parents very frustrated or very overwhelmed or guilty. But please understand, they're a very normal, they are very normal part of a child growing up. So the first challenge is tantrum. Suppose you are in a grocery store, okay? Imagine you are in the grocery store and suddenly your child starts shouting because you said no to a chocolate bar. Now, this crying and shouting is not only loud, but it is embarrassing because now you notice that everyone in the grocery shop is actually looking at you. But please understand, dear parents, that tantrums are child's way to put across their big feelings, which they are not able to put into words because they're incapable of doing that. The second misbehavior or the behavior challenge that parents face is defiance. Defiance is when the child looks straight into your eyes and say, I'm not doing this and you can't make me do. It could be for a very small thing like putting away your toys. But and so it's very important to understand that defiance is a way of child. It's a way it's a child's way to seek control, to seek power, especially in a scenario where most of the world for them is decided by us. The next common difficult behavior is aggression. Now, aggression is hitting, it could be throwing things, biting, could be anything, or sibling rivalry for that matter. Now, please understand, aggression happens when the child is overwhelmed with a lot of big feelings and they don't know how to express those. And then they resort to hitting, or they resort to, throwing and biting and all those kind of things. The next behavior or the difficult behavior is sibling rivalry. or sibling fights. Now, anyone who has more than one children will know that we have all played referee to our children more times than we can even keep a count of, right? Why? Because and please understand, this is a very normal behavior of children growing up. And children fight for a lot of things. They fight for attention, they fight for equal things, they fight for because they are learning how to problem solve, because they don't know, they don't have that skill right now. So there is a lot of reasons why children fight, or siblings fight for that matter. Now, there's also one new age common behavior that we have come across, and that we keep coming across, which is the screen time addiction, right? Now, please understand that if your child is facing a difficulty in putting up away that tablet or that phone, it is because screens are addictive. They are designed that ways, and our children, they don't have the impulse control. They don't know how to take control, take charge, and put it away, put that mobile away on their own. So if you've ever gone through any of these challenges, please understand that you are not alone. I think these are the challenges that most of the parents have faced, most of the caregivers have faced. And now I will tell you how you can handle these challenges, how you can manage or modify the behavior of your children. But before we do that, let me tell you that one very important thing is to regulate before you educate. Now, what does that mean? This means that you cannot teach a drowning child how to swim, which means if your child is in the middle of a tantrum, for example, and you go to your child and you try explaining them things, you try teaching them, or giving them logic for that matter, it's as good as it's as good as shouting swimming instructions to someone who's drowning, who's already underwater, and you know what happened, they are not in the condition to listen. So whenever your child is dysregulated, whenever your child is in the middle of a tantrum, the first thing that you do is you regulate your child, because at that moment a child's brain is flooded with emotions, and it's as if they're drowning in the sea of feelings, and they don't know what to do. So you have to be the calm, for those child, for their chaos. You have to be the anchor, the calm during that moment. You have to sit with them, regulate them. Only once your child is regulated, they'll be able to learn, or they'll be able to understand what is it that you are trying to say. Because a dysregulated child's emotional brain is in charge, okay, and their thinking brain is offline. So whatever it is that you're trying to teach them in that moment, they will not understand. Now, research from Harvard Center proves or shows that children need a calm adult to help them return to a state where they can learn. And this is called co regulation. Now, what is co regulation? If my child is crying or hitting or is in the middle of a tantrum, I sit with my child and tell them that I understand they are in the middle of a difficult situation and I'm there for them whenever they want to talk, without yelling, without punishing, without threatening, right? So what you're doing here is you are becoming the calm for their chaos. And this technique is called co-regulation. So as a thumb rule or as a golden rule, you co-regulate first and then you discuss. Then you walk your child through what happened. Then you tell them what they should have done. Okay. And then you start teaching them. So be their anchor, be their calm in their chaos. Now let's move ahead and look at some strategies by which you can modify the behavior of your child. Are you ready? Are you ready to explore those strategies using which you will be able to modify the behavior of your child, the challenging behaviors which leave you frustrated? Yes? Everyone ready? Give me a yes in the chat box. Come on, quickly, everyone. Amazing. Thank you for all the responses, people. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so here are some practical tools for behavioral management. The first tool that we'll talk about is positive reinforcement. And please understand that this is a very, very powerful tool, very important tool. Positive reinforcement means that you reward the behavior that you want your child to repeat often. that you want your child to continue. Now, I want everyone here to take a moment and think, when was the last time you caught your child doing something good and you acknowledged it? See, catching your child doing something good is far easy than acknowledging the child for the same good. So I want you to, think, when was the last time you did that? Positive reinforcement says that it is very important to catch your children being good and to reinforce that behavior by giving them praise or by appreciating them in the moment. Now let's understand this with an example again. And this session will have a lot of examples because I want to make it as practical as possible. And all these examples are true examples, by the way, from my sessions. Now, suppose there's a child, and you notice that the child actually shares their toys with their younger sibling. Now, for you as a parent, noticing that behavior and moving on and getting busy with your household chores is not right. So what you take a you take a pause and you tell your child that you're very proud of them because they shared their toys with a younger sibling, and this is what and they are, it's very kind of them. It's very kind of them to share. Doing this, you are actually reinforcing the behavior that you want them to repeat. And please understand that all the praises, they need to be very immediate, and they should not be left for a later time, because in that case, they lose its relevance. If I'm doing something good and if I am appreciated for that in the moment, that appreciation will matter. But if I'm appreciated for it after a year, I might as well not even remember it. So immediate appreciation and specific appreciation. For example, don't say good job, awesome, kudos, wow. Please don't do that. You use very specific things and mention those things that you want to actually reinforce in your child. For example, tell them that that they're putting away of their shoes without you asking them was taking responsibility, right? So be very specific in your praise. That's very important. For younger children, you can even use token systems or visual charts. Now, how does this works? Whenever you find your child, for example, in the morning, if your child gets up and continues doing their chores in the morning without any fuss, you give them a star. Now, for after every 5 stars, you tell them that now they have the authority to decide a fun activity for themselves, or maybe decide a story that they want to read at a bedtime. Now, please understand, the idea here is to make the reward very meaningful. We are not trying to extravagate the reward. Okay, we are not making it monetary. We are not trying to extravagate the reward, because positive reinforcement is not about bribing the child or ignoring the problem. However, it is about building that safe zone, uh, that trust, and telling your child that they are seen, they are appreciated, and so that your child knows what to do in the future and they learn from their experience. And please make sure that you are praising the effort and not the outcome. Your child might have tried, studying for the exam very hard, but did not get the marks that you were expecting. However, the main point is that they tried. So please make sure that you are praising the effort and not the outcome. The second topic that we'll talk about, or the tool that we'll talk about, is discipline. Now, tell me quickly in the chat box, what is that one thing that comes to your mind when I say discipline? Okay. What is that one thing that comes to your mind? Come on, quickly tell me in the chat box. When I say discipline, what is that one thing that comes to your mind? Yeah. Awesome. I see responses coming up. Please keep typing. Please keep typing. Now, let me tell you, most of us have grew up hearing that discipline is, equal to punishment, that timeouts and taking away privileges, or, threatening, or, shouting, yelling, and hitting sometimes is all a part of
Nanishri, it was
discipline,
superbly insightful
or,
and Nanishri.
is a part of disciplining your child, right? But that is not the case. What if I tell you that discipline is not it's not, it's not your chance to make your child feel bad. Not at all. It is actually to make them understand what they can do better the next time around. And so there are some things that you do under discipline. Sorry. The first thing is natural and logical consequences. Now, what does this mean? Any consequence that does not require the intervention of an adult are natural consequences. For example, if your child refuses to wear a raincoat, they will get wet, obviously. That's a natural consequence. Logical consequences are something that you put into place, and they should be related to the behavior and not random, not at all. For example, if your child, drew on the wall. Now, the logical consequences that you go to your child and tell them that walls are not for drawing and that let's come and clean the walls together. This is a logical consequence. But if you will tell them no screen time for you, that's not even making sense. They'll not even understand why, right? And you are not reinforcing a behavior with that, with this. So make sure that the consequences are logical. Second is time ins versus time out. Time out is when you send your child to another room and you tell them, think about your behavior, think what you did wrong. Please understand, when your child is in a meltdown or in a tantrum, their logical brain shuts off. Okay, so they will not be able to, they will not be able to understand what they did wrong. They'll not be able to identify what they did wrong. So the better approach is time ins, which happens when you sit with your child during a tantrum, help them become calm, and once they are calm, you walk them through what happened, and then you give them coaching, then you give them teaching, and tell them what they could do better the next time around. The third technique is redirection. Suppose your child is jumping on a sofa, and you tell your child that sofa is not to jump or couch is not for jumping. However, I would love to see how far you can go when you jump on the floor. Now, this way, you are not even only telling your child what they can't do, but you're also telling your child what they can do. So it's very empowering for the child, right? The third is role play. When you see your child in between of a tantrum, you role play, you be their anchor, be their calm. Sit there and make sure that they are calm, they are regulated. So the next time around, your child knows what to do when they have all those big emotions which they are not able to identify. At the end, I would say that punishment might stop a behavior. When you're punishing, threatening, it will stop the behavior. But here is the con. Punishment will not help your child learn any life skill that they will need later on. It will not help your child. So it's better to resort to uh, some good tools rather than punishing your child. If you want them to learn, if you want them to have a future which is secured, where they can make healthy relationships. Moving on. The next tool that we have is boundaries with love. Now, boundaries are something which are very, very important. It needs to be implemented even when your child don't ask for it. You know, think of boundaries, something that gives your child a security. It tells your child what is expected of them and what is okay. For example, a playground. The playground has walls. Now, the walls of the playground will not refrain a child from playing in the playground. But you will be sure, or the child will be sure that they're safe in the playground because no car from the road is coming and hitting them in the playground because of the walls. That is what boundaries are, and that is why it is so important to implement the boundaries. Now, being too lenient, being too permissive, and saying can't not able to say no for anything, or letting the rules slide away is also not okay. And being very authoritarian, and managing everything that your child is saying no, is also not okay, because it will make your child anxious, it will make them resentful and rebellious. So the sweet spot is authoritative parenting, where you set boundaries with calmness, firmness, and you follow through the boundaries. Now, how do you establish boundaries? First, be very calm when you're establishing boundaries, because children are, more likely to follow a boundary when it is established very calmly, rather than when you shout, when you yell, and you threaten, and you establish a boundary. For example, no screen time for you from tomorrow. That's not how a boundary is established. Second, be very clear. You can say, instead of saying no throwing toys, don't throw toys, you can say the toys remain on the mat. Okay, be very confident and consistent while you're establishing the boundaries. Children test boundaries not because they are manipulative or because they are trying to give you a hard time, but because they want to know whether these boundaries are for real. Okay. And that's why they will test those boundaries. So for example, during a bedtime, if you're struggling with the screen time and your child says they want to watch TV for 10 more minutes, you tell them, you sit with them and you tell them that, you understand that giving up TV is difficult because it is something that they like, but right now it's bedtime. And I will switch off the TV for you. Let's go and let's sleep for today. Let's watch TV again another day or tomorrow. So be very consistent with your boundaries and follow through what you have said. Please understand one thing that's very important is boundaries are not for control, but to establish care. To let your child know that you are there for them, they are seen, they are heard, but as much as they are important, the rules are very important, also very important, which keep them safe and secure. The next tool is communication strategies. Now communication is the most powerful tool that a parent can use, because and everything that you do as a part of a communication, your tone, your voice, your modulation, your gesture, your body language, everything matters. And these are the things that can establish a bridge between you or your child, or build a wall of resistance. How? I'll tell you. It's very important that when your child comes up to you and tell you that they're upset, you are not giving them any solution. You are not jumping to conclusions, but you are listening to them. You make eye contact, you nod, and you tell them, let them know that you are there, you are listening. Okay? Because it's very important for the child to understand that they're seen, they're heard. Active listening is very important on the part of the parent. Second is using I statement. So instead of telling your child, why do you always do this? Why don't you listen? Use sentences like, I'm really concerned about your safety, and that is why I don't like, or I feel insecure when you run in the parking lot. Now, use this is how you are actually, communicating them your feelings without blaming them, without making them feel attacked that you did this, you did that. Validation before correction. When your child comes up to you and say that they are upset, rather than again jumping to conclusions or telling them what they could have done better, tell them that you understand they are upset, and ask them what they could have done better in that position or in that situation. That opens up a lot of scope for you and your child to connect and talk. Now, communication is not a one-way street. It's not only about making sure that your child hear what you're trying to say, but it's also about listening to them and showing them that they are heard, they are listened to, and that you understand them. Right? Everyone with me? Making sense? Type MS in the chat box. Come on quickly and stretch if you want. Awesome. Moving on. Now see, your growth as a parent is very important, because we have discussed a lot of strategies, we have discussed behavior, we have discussed what behavior is, how do you identify behavior. But for us as a parent especially, it's very important to look at your child's behavior and say, and focus all your energy, all your concentration on your child, and say that the child is wrong, they are doing this wrong, they are doing that wrong. But please understand, whenever you choose patience over threatening, whenever you choose calm over chaos, and whenever you choose response over reaction, you are not only self regulating yourself, you are also modeling that behavior for your children, so that your child knows what to do in this situation. And dear parents, the magic starts, or the magic happens when we when we start working on ourselves instead of working on a child first. Because it starts with us, it begins with us. So it is very important that when we are going ahead to modify or change the behavior of your child, we understand that it's very important for us to change as well. Now, there's a very powerful concept in psychology, which is mirror neurons. It says that there's a part of the brain which helps you learn by watching. Okay. And so make sure that, you are modeling that behavior that you want to reinforce. Make sure that you are understanding them before you're jumping to conclusion. Make sure that you're giving a name to their feelings. Make sure that you're understanding them, because your child is learning more by watching you than by listening to what you have to say. So it's very important to model the behavior, and very important for you to be calm before you go ahead and modify or try to modify the behavior of your child. The third thing is reflective parenting. Now I will make you understand this using a short story, which is the story of Raj. Now, Raj is a parent, is a father who came up to me and he used to get very upset, when his child used to throw a tantrum. And then he used to shout, he used to resort to punishment. And he noticed that the situation escalated very quickly. The child also started shouting, and things escalated, and he was very tired of all those things. So what he did was, we took a few sessions and he started modeling the behavior that he wanted to see in the child. So next time when he saw his child misbehaving, he every time he used to take a deep breath, regulate himself before he talks to his child, and then tell the child what to do and what not to do, when once the child is also calm. And he noticed that the child started changing himself, but that happened only when Raj decided to change himself, not before that, right? So, as we wrap up this session, I want you to remember that parenting is a journey, it's not a destination. And there's no need for us to be perfect, not at all. And every challenging behavior, every challenging situation could be turned into an opportunity for growth for your child. So, as you move ahead on this journey, I want you to notice all the small changes that are happening for you, all the small steps that you are taking. Appreciate yourself for those. You deserve it, right? Appreciate yourself for those small steps. Because understand, you're not just raising a child, you're actually raising an adult, a future adult, and you are also growing alongside with them. It's as important as your growth as theirs. So I want every parent who is there, who is here, who's a part of the session, to keep moving forward, to keep implementing these changes, one mindful interaction at a time, one mindful modeling behavior at a time, and let's take this journey ahead from here. With this, I wrap up this session, and all the details of whatever you have heard here are in my book, which is The Art of Behavioral Management. You will find it on Amazon. And if you want to connect with me, you can reach out to me on my Instagram, which is Parenting with Presence with a double E. Uh, Now, over to you, Gloria. If you have any questions, we can take those up.
What a powerful session, Richa. Thank you so much. It was tremendously insightful and nourishing. And on behalf of each parent out here, I want to thank you for bringing to our presence that behavioral management isn't just about battlefield, but rather it is more about bonding moments. So thank you, Richa. And let's take up some questions. So all the parents in the room, if anybody has some questions for Richa, please put it in the chat box. She'll address it personally.
Okay, I can see the questions coming in, uh, and it is moving very fast. So, the first question that I saw was around mirror neurons. So, mirror neurons is your your brain's ability to learn by watching. So, for your child especially, and for you as a parent, it is very important to model the behavior that you want your child to have, because your child is learning by looking at what you are doing, more than by learning from what you are asking them to do. Let's understand this with an example. I am asking my child that it's very important to remain calm and respectful, and that they should not be disrespectful. It's very important for them to be calm. And now I go out on a road with them. I'm driving a scooter, and someone crosses by me at a very high speed, and I start shouting, "देख के नहीं चल सकता है क्या?" Tell me, am I modeling calm? And I come back home and I tell my child, because it's very important to be calm. My child will think, come on, like seriously, just 2 minutes ago you shouted on that man who just crossed you. Okay, so they'll so they'll not take you seriously. They'll not take anything that you've told them seriously, and they'll say कि ये सिर्फ ज्ञान है. Okay, children are very smart. They know, they can understand, they can sense. They are very smart. So next time you tell them anything to do, they'll tell you कि ये इनका है, इनका ज्ञान चलता है, but खुद से तो होता नहीं है. And there is a possibility that they might tell this to you on your face. You never know. So it's very important to model the behavior, because mirror neurons is a part of the brain that helps child learn from their experience, from what they see the adults doing around them. So it is very important to model the behavior that you want your child to you want to reinforce in your child, basically. Okay, and the next question is, what to do if your child lies a lot? Okay, now it is very important to understand that why children lie. Probably because they are either afraid to come and confront you, because they know that your immediate reaction would be either shouting, yelling, or punishing. Or they don't trust you with the information, because they know you have not validated their feelings, and they know that you will not understand them. So to de-escalate the situation and to put an end to all that trauma, children start lying. So for example, if my child comes up to me and tell me that, mom, I broke this bottle, which just happened today, by the way. There was a glass bottle that I bought. It was a new bottle, very close to my heart. And he came up to me and he said, I broke the bottle. The first instinct that I had was to shout कि एक काम ठीक से नहीं होता यार, very bad. I mean, I just bought it 2 days back. But instead, I actually took a moment to pause and I told him, it's okay. Please make sure that everything is cleaned, and make sure if you're hurt, if you are not hurt and nobody gets hurt. So let's clean it, right? So if we give a very dramatic reaction to what our child has to say to us, it always leads to lying, because then they know that they can't trust you with information, because you'll not validate them, and you will have that reaction always. There's another question which says, what do we do when a child is non-verbal and throws tantrum regarding food? Now, what tantrum are those, Zainab? I don't know. Is your child refusing to eat food, or what are the tantrums? Okay, moving on to another question. If a 3-year child doesn't wish to sit in the class, how do we manage? Being a teacher, it becomes difficult, right? Being a teacher, it becomes very difficult. So now you have to channelize the energy of of that child. So what I do is, for example, I'm not a teacher, but whenever I take a session and there are a lot of students, and whenever there's one child who doesn't want to sit, who is who always wants to get up and start doing something and distract the entire class, I give them I give them some kind of responsibility. For example, I'll tell them that now you are a buddy and you have to go and check what everyone is doing. So that way they take responsibility and they get to move around, and then they come sit on their place, and then I tell them to do their task now and see what best you can take out from them. So that this is just one strategy. What I'm trying to say is, you need to channelize the energy of that child. You need to come up with ways in which you can channelize the energy of that child, so that the entire class does not get distracted. I don't think there are. How to handle the child's language the whole day, continue to ask few days. Okay, there's another question which says, how to handle if the child is stick to one thing which he wants to ask whole day, or continue to ask for few things with shouting and crying after connection also, and firmly telling also. How to break the cycle? So okay, now as I told you, if you've ever had a thought that I've tried everything and my child doesn't change, that is because you have not followed through the boundary, or you are not consistent with your boundary. Now, what this means is I've come across parents whom I tell them that, uh, uh, they have to model their behavior and they have to be calm, and they have to, they have to approach their children with calmness and while they are in a tantrum. They do it for once, for twice, and the third time they come up and they tell me that दो बार किया अभी नहीं सुन रहा, जब चिल्लाया ना तभी चुप हुआ. So please understand that you have been doing this for a lot of time, and as such the child knows what to expect. So now you need to put in more efforts. You need to put in more efforts to make sure that you remain calm during those tantrums, for your child to trust you with that calmness, for your child to understand that this is the behavior that you want them to model, or the behavior that you're showing. Okay, you don't have to give up. But people say that gentle parenting doesn't work. Of course it does. It only doesn't work when we give up in between. Okay, or when we are tired, because as parents we have a lot of things to take care of. We get tired, we are overwhelmed with chores, and so we give up in between. We start with gentle parenting. We tell them please don't do this, and then we start shouting and we see देखो चिल्लाया ना तभी काम हुआ. एक तो we need to understand what's the difference between a permissive parenting, please mat karo, please mat karo, please mat karo, and establishing boundaries respectfully, firmly, and with consequences. So that is very important to understand. Okay, yeah, back to you, Gloria.
So I think there are few more questions. Archana is having some question towards the end.
Okay. Archana, how to address sibling comparison between 14-year-old and 10-year-old, as genders are different, needs are different, and as parents, we are protective of the girl child more due to society condition. Okay, the question is how to address sibling comparison. So, this is what I follow, and this is what I think, that there should not be any comparison in the first place, because we say as parents, we say that we want to do equal for our children. But please understand, we can't do equal for our children, because both the children are at a separate stage of development, have separate needs, have separate requirements. For example, I have a child who's 8 years old and a child who is 2 years old. Now, I never tell my child that I'll do equally for both of you, because when you try doing that, they question every move of yours. They'll ask you कि उसको मिला मुझे क्यों नहीं दिया, या उसको क्यों दिया मुझे क्यों नहीं दिया. And so you have to tell them that whatever they'll get will be age appropriate and according to their requirement, as in the situation they are in right now. So for example, if I am buying a pencil box for my son who is 8 years old, I will not buy a pencil box for my son who's 2 years old. And if I am buying a toy for my son who is 2 years old, I will not buy a toy for my son who is 8 years old. And when he'll ask me that you did not buy for me, here is what I tell them. I tell them that everything that you will get will be age appropriate. There is no comparison, and we are not doing equally. We can't do equally for both of you, because that's not happening. Anything that will happen will be age appropriate. Okay.
Yeah.
Do we wrap up?
Yes. So thank you so much, Richa. You have beautifully answered all the questions. And thank you so much to each and every participant for joining us and making this session a success. I'm sure everybody has learned a lot and going back with amazing, powerful tools. Thanks to Richa's amazing session. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening ahead.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining.